traveled a very long journey. A very long journey it has traveled, and ecologically in the evolution, nature has found it fit to continue and survive actually. That was a thing. So long back in the Paleocene era, the Erythrium, the elephant, the small one, it has appeared. Then it passed through so many things, and then mammoths and mastodons were prehistoric elephants. And then today we have uh, mm, elephants in Africa and in Asia. The African elephant, there are two, Loxodonta africana and Cyclotis, and here we have Indian elephant, what we say, Elephas maximus. So very long journey and very interesting journey actually all the way. So when I joined almost more than 3 decades back, I have seen how the things were, and then over a period of time it has become. So our talk is also for the management and conservation of elephants, perspective and experience. Very interesting. So what I recollect actually how the things happened at that time. I still remember I worked in the Mysore division. Nagarhole Tiger Reserve was not there. So that area was the part of this Kakankote Reserve Forest was a part of the Mysore division. Present day it is the Nagarhole Tiger Reserve. As far as the conflict part is concerned with the human being, it was almost non-existent, very, very less actually. As such, it was not there. And the main issue was the protection. When I worked in the Kolegal Forest Division after some time, some of you who were there at that time, you might recollect that Veerappan's problem was very much dominating in that at that time. And Kolegal Forest Division was a part of a very big landscape. Today, what we say as a Nilgiri Eastern Ghat range, which consists of areas of Mysore Elephant Reserve, Wayanad, Mudumalai, and then some other parts of this Kondinya Wildlife Sanctuary, a small part in the Andhra Pradesh where some elephant migrated some time back. So it is a part of that, and the big landscape, about 10 to 12,000 square kilometer area intact, it is there. So main problem was the protection actually. Other issues, what we are facing today, they were not there. Around that time only Project Elephant started, and I was there at that time in Kolegal Forest Division. At that time this census also took place after some time, and Karnataka has 5,500 or something, the number of elephants at that time. After 4 years, I remember that the elephant population, which was second census happened, it was about 6,000 elephants. So good that the elephant population remained stable. Many people feel that the elephant population has increased, but that is not so, because we have a record of almost the last 25, 26 years. So population is stable. Then I continued to work in the various forest division, and in between I had the opportunity to work for writing the working plan of the forest divisions. Actually, it is a very comprehensive plan which the forest department prepares for the management of the forest areas. I had opportunity to work for writing the plan in many divisions. Some of the divisions which I will recollect actually where it was in sometime 1998, between 1998 to 2001. Like present day Madikeri, Virajpet, the part of the Kodgu, we have 2 forest divisions there. Hunsur was also there, then Kolegal Forest Division, and many other divisions also. So while doing this exercise, a lot of data is collection, and we have to spend a lot of time in the field actually. Quality of forest, growing stock, species composition, regeneration, status, diameter, class, distribution of trees, number of things have to be collected actually. I remember that as such, that thing which I had observed earlier, the human wildlife conflict, or in particular when we are speaking about this human elephant conflict, it was not there the present day today what we are seeing today. So protection issues, department has taken proactive measures, and monitoring of illegal killings of elephants also started at that time, and with all their efforts, the problem of poaching, illegal killing of elephants have come down. But then I remember this: the changes were happening, population were growing, land use, and land cover were changing, but nothing was visible so much. Perhaps after 2000, when this IT boom, everything happened here, And thereafter, our lifestyle changes, land use changes, land cover changes. Many things have contributed to the fast, rapid change in the landscape. The changes in the landscape started becoming visible actually in the next 3 4 years, and we found that conflict has started. And I remember around 2007-8, an incident happened when four of the elephants were found dead and body floating there in the carcass floating in one of the canal near Nanjangud. The High Court of Karnataka took the suo motu cognizance of that, and then when PIL also its suo motu started. After that, it became a very focused thing for the conservation and management of elephant. A lot of measures were taken. The court has given certain directions, short term and long term, and the matter went for a long time. So then I remember that things came to the focus actually. By that time, because of the changes in the landscape, what I am telling, so many things have happened last 50 years. As we know that elephant, like human beings, their life is also around 60 to 70 years on the average when they live in the wild. So they have a long time. And for the elephants, lifespan 50 years is not a very long time. Means elephant can see the things, the changes, how it is happening. So a lot of reservoirs have come, lands have been changed from this land cover from forest to other uses also. And because of the increase in the population, our lifestyle also has changed. Crops which were very different earlier also have been changed. Then I found all these changes were contributing, and suddenly there was a increase in the conflict throughout the elephant range areas. Earlier, the elephant range areas means the forest area. In Karnataka, we have two important elephant reserves actually. The main one is Mysore Elephant Reserve, which starts from Bannerghatta National Park and stretches all along through the, earlier it was up to Kodagu and Hassan. Then we included the area of present day Bhadra Tiger Reserve also. So up to that it is stretching. And one more elephant reserve is in we had Dandeli Elephant Reserve. So these two are the important. Mysore Elephant Reserve was about some 8,000 square kilometer, and Dandeli Elephant Reserve about 2,300 square kilometer. So all put together about 10,500 square kilometer area in which we have the protected areas and the forest divisions as the core and the surrounding buffers where we had the elephant and a lot of things were to be done in these areas. So the areas which were outside this elephant reserve, earlier their lands used to be fallow or the crops which they used to grow were very compatible with the conservation of nature, like this horse gram, groundnut, hyacinth beans, all these were being grown, and people were also quite tolerant. And they, if you talk to them, they did not have a very big returns expectation. So sometimes 15-20%, even if the damage is there, they are not minding too much. But later on, we found that the changes which happened in sometime 2005, 6, 7, and later on, complete change of the scenario has changed. So one thing very important has happened, which we have seen in the Hassan actually. There is a place, Alur, is one of the taluk in Hassan. A lot of elephant problem was there, and then we were asked that we should capture almost 25 to 30 elephants which were there at that time. Department has worked, the central government has given the permission also, court agreed for that. So we took up that, and I remember the Ajay Desai was working with that at that time. So we captured two of the elephants just to know that how their movement takes place. They were radio collared. So this thing has happened. And thereafter, we had a continuous engagement with some way or other to manage the elephant in the different areas actually. And for the conservation and management of elephant, Karnataka has a very old history actually. The captive elephants from very long time, almost the documented history is from the 18th century when Tipu Sultan and Hyder Ali, they were there, how the elephants were being captured. But for the wild elephants, their study of their ecology and behavior, it was not much done. It was in the last 30-40 years only people have started working on that. Then we learned that the changes which have happened over a period of time has contributed the present day conflict what we are seeing. So this has happened, and the court constituted one task force also. I was as a field director of Project Elephant. I was a member secretary, and Professor Sukumar was the chairperson, and we had many other scientists and senior officers as a part of the task force. A number of things have been proposed. The important thing was about the zonation, that the areas where we can conserve the elephants, conservation areas, or coexistence areas, or removal zone from where elephants have come very close to the human habitation, and their long-term survival cannot be ensured there, so they can be removed like that. So good things have happened. But in the meantime, I still remember when I was the field director and chief conservator, Project Elephant, two elephants actually, they stayed one day in the Mysore city. That was something very surprising. It has happened. And then department has taken action. One person was killed actually, unfortunately. But by and large, we could control the things and elephants were captured and translocated. But then we found how the things are happening. So one of the reasons we found that some of the tourism activities which are happening in the elephant range areas, that are causing a lot of disturbance there. Same thing happened with the Kodagu also, as many of us we know, because of the IT boom in Bangalore. Bangalore became a very important catchment for the tourism for the areas which were 150 to 200 kilometers away from Bangalore. So Kodagu was one of the destination, and more than 30 lakh tourists actually visited one of the year 2015 or 16 at that time. So with all these things, we were this elephant range areas which were outside the forest have a lot of disturbance. The French Institute Pondicherry also studied about it, and they said that more than 700 square kilometer was an increase in the coffee, about 107%, something like that. And because of this expansion of coffee, increase in the tourism, traffic on the road, then many of the rights which have been recognized, so roads and other things have come inside the range areas. So all they contributed towards the conflict. So then department, suddenly this change has happened in a few years, but department took up all this challenge and a number of action measures have been taken. The young officers who were working in the different areas, they have taken proactive actions to ensure that elephants should not cross over the range areas from anywhere, especially where the farmlands and forest areas have a common interface and which is unbroken. We should have some barrier to contain the elephants. In other places, we should have some other measures to see that they should not come out like that. So with all these type of measures which the department has taken, at least the problem was slightly brought under control. And these things are long-term measures still being done. And then we found that elephant also started learning how to overcome these barriers. So whatever we were doing at that time, we have to modify many of those things. And as we know, there are a lot of challenges are there. Things are not very easy actually. Like within the community also, the rural community, the farmers, they have some interest that elephants should not come out and destroy the crops. But the landless laborers in the village who have the cattle, they wanted to get their cattle in the they wanted to leave them in the forest. So many places our barriers were being damaged because of this, and then elephants were coming out wherever these barriers are damaged. So that type of problems have happened. Other thing, elephant also is intelligent species trying to learn how to overcome the things. So some earlier what these solar fences, what we have actually, they also try to break it in many places. So department has taken other measures. The hanging fences have come, rail barriers also have come, elephant proof trenches have been widened, pitching have been done. So that by and large, those things were good. Action was taken to have a awareness program also to sensitize the people about the conservation literacy. That was a very, very important thing actually. What we have found, the elephant has a lot of support the areas which are away from the elephant ranges, but around the elephant range areas, because of the livelihood issues, what the farmers are facing and their own problems, farmers, the literacy level was very less. We will try to educate the people there and also to compensate them the losses which were happening due to the elephants. So that has brought a lot of goodwill among the local community and the forest department. Then, as we know, that some of the things are very, very important when we talk about the elephant. One thing is elephant etiquettes. When we talk about the conservation literacy, we also know that how this elephant, they expect us to behave with them. If we behave in a different way, they get very agitated. The people start, when the elephant is stray out, people start shouting, pelting stones, getting a lot of nuisance actually. So they get disturbed, disoriented. That creates sort of problem. Like in Mysore, what we felt that had the elephant been left on their own, they would have gone back. But that did not happen. People started chasing it. After just chasing them, so that has made the things very, very complex. So we should learn how to live with the elephants, at least the areas where the elephants are there. And we have hardly some 10,500 square kilometer area, which maybe around 5% of the geographical area of the state. We can have this type of measures which can ensure the long-term survival of this important species in our state. So very important things which happened in that. So tourism I have flagged. That was one of the thing which has happened. Another thing was the fragmentation. The fragmentation has happened because of many reasons. The linear infrastructures which have come, the reservoir projects which have been made, the change in the land uses which has happened, land cover which has happened. Many of these things have brought the fragmentation also. But the good thing, I still remember that happened, the WTI, ANCF, then many other organizations, this initiative was taken for the identifying the elephant corridor, the passage of India, passage of right of passage, elephant corridors of India. And for all the states, including Karnataka, important corridors were identified because the landscape was getting fragmented. It was a very good measure which has happened at that time, and it has focused the one of the important thing that habitat fragmentation. So wherever it was left, it was, since it was brought to the notice, those corridors were tried to be protected. Still now, though we do not have any statutory status for those areas, but since the corridors are known, they are getting better attention for the protection. So very important thing which has happened. And now if we continue with this to ensure that, because elephant as such is a very long-ranging species, long-ranging, and they are the habitat generalist. Lot of ecological benefits happen due to the elephants. That is how they survived for a long journey. So those things can happen if we ensure that this habitat integrity, ecological integrity of the landscape. So somehow in the state, the measures which have been taken, one of the measures which I still remember, we have taken, it was in Kodgu, the areas which were joining the forest of Wayanad with the Nagarhole, some of the elephant movement, because it's a dynamic thing, elephant corridors getting changed also over a period of time. So new corridors also have been identified so that we should know that how elephant movements are taking place. This is a very good thing. Then besides that, wherever possible, people have been educated for the alternative crops also, though it is not, it did not happen the way we wanted, because now you see that outside the elephant range areas, where we have the core areas or the buffer, just outside that, the crops are like banana, maize, sugarcane, paddy, all these things. They are the crops which attract the elephants. And then when the elephants stray out, damages happens, then the people retaliate. So these were the problems actually. Then there are many challenges which the department was able to address in some way or other at that time, and is continuing also. One of the important things was improving the quality of habitat. So as we know that elephant habitat for some of the historical reason got partly invaded with the invasive weeds. Invasive weeds also, and some invasive, some species of grasses also. Like so, some of these invasive species, we say that like lantana, eupatorium, parthenium, pteridium in some of the places, high rainfall areas. So then we wanted to restore the habitat in some way or other. This program is continuing. So that has helped in restoring the habitat in some way, but not in a way what it should have happened. Then the bamboo flowered. So for bamboo also, the flowering areas have been mapped. Wherever the regeneration stress was deficient, department has taken action to sow the seeds to supplement the regeneration. So that was a very good measure. Then for protection of elephant, a network of the anti-poaching camps also have been established all along the interstate border and sensitive places. That has helped for protection of elephant in a very big way. Another very important area, it means important thing was compensating the people who pay for the conservation adequately. Like the farmers, if the crops are damaged, they should be paid adequately with the market rate or something very close to that. Then the people who get injured or unfortunately if they lose their life or life also, then sufficient support should be provided to the family. Ex gratia should be enough at least for them to meet the exigencies which have caused because of this. All other things, the government has increased the ex gratia in some way or other. To that extent, we were able to adequately compensate the losses. Because after all, elephant is a heritage animal. It is, we say, the flagship species, a keystone species, and it is an integral part of our culture, literature, art, social life, and of course, ecologically, it is a very much part of that. So, with all these measures, things have happened in a positive direction, so that we can continue to have a good number of elephants. And right now, elephants we have in the country the largest number of elephants. But the understanding of people that elephant population has increased, that has brought the conflict is not right. Actually, elephants have become visible. They were very much there where they were earlier, but now because of the fragmentation caused to the because sometimes the coffee states where they're passing through have been fenced, or canals have come, or this hydroelectric power penny stocks have come. They have fragmented it. So because of that, they started straying in different places. And when the department has identified these causes, addressed them, we found that conflict has come down. Like in case of Mysore, the elephant has come. I said that it has stayed in Mysore city. So that reasons of disturbances which have caused in range areas have been addressed. So that has helped to further check any such movement. So many of these things have happened. So those things are good actually to protect the elephant for long term in our state. So these were some of the things I just wanted to share our thoughts how the elephant conservation is taking place. It has taken, and proactively the department which has worked with the people to protect these elephants. So thank you very much. I think the about 15 to 20 minutes which was given to me. Briefly, I just shared my views.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. You have touched upon a lot of very key issues. And I now request Manoj Kumar, sir, to kindly continue with the next part of our session. Before we do that, I would like to quickly introduce Manoj Kumar, sir, as well. Manoj Kumar, sir, is a postgraduate in forest genetics, and he did his PG diploma in wildlife management from Dehradun. Sir belongs to 1997 batch of Indian Forest Service. His work has taken him all across the state. He has served as the executive director of Chamarajendra Zoological Gardens in Mysore, as DCF in Dandeli and Sirsi, CCF in Madkeri, and also as member secretary in Karnataka State Pollution Control Board. His areas of interest is conservation education, and he has been involved in creating awareness amongst school children, teachers, bureaucrats, politicians, as well as media persons. Sir is currently serving as Chief Conservator of Forests, Chamrajnagar Circle. Welcome, sir, and I would now request you to kindly take the conversation forward with Ajay Mishra, sir.
Thank you, Anusha. Thank you so much. And thanks to the Friends of Elephants and WTI for this opportunity. In fact, I consider this as my privilege to have a conversation with a very renowned forester, and then is known to the state and also across the country, Sri Ajay Mishra sir. And I take this a lot of pleasure and also pride in the sense that I had an opportunity to work with sir very closely. And several things, whatever I have been able to achieve in the field department are also mostly because of sir's support and then the encouragement and guidance. With that background, sir, thank you so much, sir, for agreeing to this particular event actually. And
Thank
then
you, Manoj.
whatever you have spoken so far has given an overview of the departments and then the efforts in the field of conservation. So I'll also be seeking some of the views from you and also your experiences, keeping the audience also in the mind, sir, because I know some of the people who are in this particular thing are participating. So I'll be would like to know, sir, more of your views and other things from the perspective of others also, not only from my perspective, but also others' perspective. Sir, actually, as you have served the state in the forest department for almost 35 odd years, and then had a tremendous, challenges when across your service, sir. So what I would like to know, sir, in your opinion, sir, how good is Karnataka in conservation, sir, when we compare with the other parts of the country, sir?
What I have said, we had the opportunity to visit many other parts of the country also and interact with our colleagues in those other states also. And Manoj, my experience about the initiatives in Karnataka, what I feel, Karnataka was always been a proactive state actually.
Sir.
And if you compare with the other states, Karnataka was always ahead of that. With all the limitations what we had, the resources or other things, but we have made the best whatever was available to us. And the department has taken a lot of measures. One of the very important thing is, see, we have close to 6,000 elephants. And I told you that 1993, when the Project Elephant started, at that time, the census was done. And over a period of time, about 97, it was about 6,000. And since then, it was around that. The population as such is stable. This number of population of elephant, and compared to the conflict what we have, it is, if you take per elephant conflict, I think it must be the minimum in the country. Because the states which have close to some 400 or 500 elephants, there the casualties are about 100. Or in still less, they have much more casualties. In Karnataka, the casualties actually happened about between 40 to 50 on the average, and half of them due to elephants, around 25. So if you see from the conflict situation point of view, we are one of the least conflict state compared to other places actually. The reason was the department in the past and the support of government and civil society, local community, by and large, who are still very tolerant to the elephants, they have always supported. So our is one of the best managed state. And that is why some of the things we get a better support also, like we have spoken about the barriers. So that's a thing. I don't think many places it has happened, but we have taken those expensive barriers. But like what I keep telling, you make the barriers just like laying the roads. We have asphalted roads. Last for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Then you have to redo it. You make a RCC road. The cement concrete road will be from 40, 50 years, like that. So we also felt how it has to be done. So compared to that, whether the measures are concerned, whether the proactive approach was concerned, whether the conflict intensity is concerned, I still feel that Karnataka is ahead of many of the states.
Sir, actually, I also remember, sir, during your time as a piece of wildlife also, and you're quite some time you were in as a piece of wildlife in the head office. A lot of sanctuaries were notified, sir. In that background, I was asking, sir, because I think we have means even today, sir, almost every year there has been one or the other proposals getting cleared in Karnataka, sir. So with this increase in the networking of protected areas, definitely the conservation, as you were telling, sir, must have been is quite good, sir. And is this the reason also, sir, for the increase in human wildlife conflict, sir?
Sir, two parts are there. One thing is the first part. We have 5 national parks, 33 wildlife sanctuaries, 14 conservation reserves, and 1 community conservation reserve also, covering about 10,700 square kilometer area, more than 5% of the state geographical area. So this was a very, very important thing. Unless you have a habitat, you cannot have a wildlife actually.
Sir.
And elephants contribute to, actually contribution of elephants in the ecology is not known to the people. We are fascinated because mythologically, culturally, elephant was a part of our journey all along the civilization. But elephant has a very big role in the ecology actually. And because of that, we have a good habitat. We have all other biodiversity happening there. So this is the one part. So that has to happen. But the conflict part, what second thing you are telling, that is because of the changes in the nature, the changes which happen gradually. They get assimilated and the transition is smooth. The changes which happen suddenly, they brought the what we say disruptive changes. They cause a lot of pain actually. So the disruptive changes not only in the nature, even in the socially also, the change which happen disruptively, they bring a lot of pain. So the only thing is the main point is how the changes are happening. I just told you, means I was talking about that in the last 20 years, changes have happened very, very rapidly. The land cover has changed, land use has changed actually. Our infrastructure projects which are passing through the forest area, linear infrastructure, that has completely, road have widened, railway tracks have become double. So many things have happened. So these changes which are happening, these changes actually, the animals, they are at a loss actually, because elephant is having, as we know, very strong memory. So about 15, 20 years, something happened, they also at a loss, what has happened. So these are causing the conflict. And the conflict, elephants, where they are in all the areas where they are today. The only thing is they have become visible because of the land use and land cover change. And then conflict is a part of evolution actually. To a certain extent, conflict is in all the species, inter-species also, intra-species also. And as long as we are managing them, there is no problem. Like in human beings, we have a rule of law, we manage the conflict. In animals also, within certain things, we pay the ex gratia and we manage them, nothing happens. But when the changes happen in such a way that the, what we say, the ecology and behavior of the living being get impacted, then of course it become visible. So that the important thing is we need to address the drivers which are causing these changes. And once we do it, I think it may take some time, but our harmonious coexistence can be ensured very well.
Sir, actually, at national level, sir, at least in Karnataka, we have several sanctuaries named after other species. At national level, there is always one allegation against the department, against the government, so that we are more oriented, our conservation efforts are more oriented towards a mega or charismatic species like tiger and then elephants. Sir, how far this is true for as far as Karnataka is concerned, sir?
As you know, I also said about this thing. We have some of the flagship species. We say they are the keystone species. Now, tiger is a national animal. Elephant is a heritage animal. So all these things actually, what you say, it is right. But in Karnataka, besides this thing, always the biodiversity was an integral part of the conservation. So like what you said, we have sanctuaries, conservation reserves, which are for the different species specific also. To what in that context, what I will say that all these things are happening because our focus is very much for the other species. Like we have a vulture sanctuary, we have a sanctuary for the hornbill, conservation reserve for the hornbill, for black bucks, for bears, for wolf, for many of these species. The canids in the eastern part, not very well known in this elephant habitat area, but in the other part it is there. So Karnataka, many of these things were taken into account, and the species, all species contribute in some way or other. Those species also have been kept in mind when the conservation strategy was made. Very important thing you said about this our network of the PA. Now we have made the eco-sensitive zone. Most of them have been done. I believe once we complete our zonal master plan, the problem of the change in the land use and land cover, which is happening without any scientific this thing, it will be very by and large will be addressed, and thing will be brought under the broad framework of the zonal master plan, where the things are permitted, prohibited, or how it has to be done. So those things will bring further improvement in the biodiversity conservation. And very well, we have conserved these keystone species as well as all other biodiversity as well, whether it is a plant or it is an animal.
Sir, I just wanted one more opinion, sir. I mean, like when you said, sir, when it comes to human-animal conflict, sir, you have also seen, sir, when elephants came to Mysore and then CM was directly in touch with you and all. How tough is the job of a forester, sir, in working towards conservation as a larger goal, sir?
You know very well that challenges in the present scenario, when everything around us is changing so quickly, and the level of conservation literacy is very, very less. Because if we want to conserve the best of the world, we have a lot of hotspots for the biodiversity. We want to do it, then we have to be proactive about the conservation literacy part. So, as far as the forester's role is concerned, it is very, very complex. You have to deal with all stakeholders. Very important thing is, the people who are in the power, they want in some way how the problem should be addressed. Then the citizens, then the activists, then the local people, then the people who bear the brunt of it. Likewise, then a lot of our own departments in the government who are working with them. So it is really a very, very tough thing to address the concerns of each one of them to ensure that in the long term we are able to conserve this biodiversity. You recollect actually after the Mysore incident, once we had we came to know elephants have strayed very close to Malwali, and perhaps they might have come inside the Mysore city in a very short time after the first incident. When we went there, we saw the things, how the things were happened. But then we could identify which disturbance is causing this elephant to run from the forest area. And once we addressed that problem, the habitat which was getting disturbed because of some reason, certain issues, once that was addressed, the elephant movement was controlled to a great extent. Similarly, the problem which was happening to hydroelectric projects, once it was identified, immediately we have taken action. So you know that these things are, the role of the forester is very, very complex. We need to work with so many stakeholders and who are having the conflicting interest actually. To maintain the conflicting interest together is not an easy thing. But despite all that, with all that means with all the problems which we are in, I believe still the forest department to a great extent is able to address it. And if we continue to have a support like the Friends of Elephants, in the program which today we are attending it here, we will be having a very good future and long-term conservation of elephant as well as all the biodiversity around us.
Sir, we just would like to know some of your significant contributions, sir, just in brief, sir.
Actually, one of the very important things, when I was in Project Elephant, this task force was there. I was a member secretary of that task force. The court has constituted this. And there also we have divergent views actually. Divergent views means some specialists were there, some scientists were there, civil society people, legal experts. So everybody was saying in that way. Then how to convince the task force? Then something has come. Then it has, the court wanted the opinion of the government. Then we also we have to convince the government that whatever is said, many of the things we may or may not agree also. So that was a very important thing, but department has followed that matter. It was a very, very important thing which we could have it actually at that time. And especially around 2010, when this problem of elephants became very much visible in many places, our proactive role in addressing the issue at that time in Alur, in Hassan, or in Kodgu at that time, or in some other part, there was a very, very important thing which we could actually make it. And then convincing the government for many of the important things which have come, like we wanted to have the network of the anti-poaching camps which came through. that then we wanted to have the number of staff, because the staff, for frontline staff, they bear the brunt to supporting them. It was a very, very important thing. So we ensured that we should go have a more and more number of posts sanctioned. They may not be enough, but we got some more posts, and then getting the recruitment also done for them. It's a very big thing. So these are the things, something which come to my mind, that immediately we were able to address it. And of course, what you said, that our personally, we were very much particular about the notification of the many areas of which we say protected areas, whether sanctuaries or conservation reserve, was a long-term contribution actually, because once it is notified, thereafter it is all it can be taken care of. And government was kind enough to support all these initiatives so that we can have a very strong and robust network of these protected areas. So that was some of the things.
Sir, you think that is there anything, sir, which you feel that should have been done and could not be done during your period, sir, so that we can take it forward, sir?
Some of the things which are continuing. So one of the things what I said, that wherever the interface between the private land and the government or forest is unbroken, we must have the barrier, strong barrier. We have the part of the areas already covered, and many of you identify the places which are where that is a broken.
Sir, you are mute, sir. Suggest.
So the time bound manner, we let us try to complete this thing so that most of the places will get plugged. There is some small openings here and there if they are left. Those things we can take care. So that is a very, very important thing which should happen. And we must have more and more number of frontline staff, because they have to work 24/7. So we always try to impress upon the government that we should have at least 2 watchers for every beat which is in the conflict zone. So that is their strength, if it is more, they can work day and night and they can attend. So that is also one of the important things which we should have done it. And of course, the conservation literacy, in which you also have a lot of interest in conservation awareness actually, that we should continue to do with all the stakeholders with whom we are working with. So these things we want that it should continue these things.
We'll try, sir. We'll try our best to continue with all the good efforts. Sir, one more thing, sir. Since I saw in the list of participants, there's a Heidi Riddle attending, sir, this particular program, who has been, herself is a lady Mahout, and she was quite helpful to us in getting our Mahouts trained. Sir, during your period, I still remember, sir, you had encouraged us to conduct a training of Mahouts and Kawadis. First time in the history of the Karnataka Forest Department we had conducted. Sir, I just want to know from you, sir, how important is this particular cadre, sir, in the department, Mahouts and Kawadis, sir?
I just spoke also about it. There's a 2 important part. One is the management of the wild conservation management of wild elephant, and one is of captive. So the wild elephant is concerned, the history is not very old, hardly 40-50 years old. People have started working recently, trying to learn the ecology, behavior, conservation, biology of the elephant. The other part, what you are telling about this captive elephant, this Mahouts and Kawadis, they are the backbone actually. And as you know, in today's conflict situation, they are the one who, not only for the human-elephant conflict, but the tiger conflict or leopard conflict or any other exigency, we have to use these elephants. And elephants, if you want to use it, to train them. These are the people, Mahouts and Kawadi, who come with us. But Karnataka, as you know, from centuries, we have the tradition of captive elephants. And we have a very strong capacity also to manage these captive elephants, which can be used. Mysore Dasara is, of course, a very world famous, a very popular festival. But these elephants, sometimes I used to just think about, see, the lakhs of people are gathering, but elephants are keeping their food, and Mahouts are able to manage them. So things go very smoothly, because a small thing, if elephant get disturbed or upset something, it can really become a very big problem. So we have to reconsider also, but the type of support we have from this cadre, it was very good. I'm very happy that their role has been recognized across the nation. And what you said, that this program, what we had, and after in this program, they got the exposure. Some of them could visit the their counterparts in other places. This has helped them in getting more motivated, share their experience, learn more about these things. So I believe that they are the backbone, and they need all the encouragement and support from department also and from civil society also. So I'm happy that she's also attending this program, and we congratulate her for her contribution towards the captive elephant management everywhere.
Heidi, so she is very much here, sir.
Okay, okay. Heidi, are you able to hear us?
Yes, I am.
Yes, yes. You can
Yes,
also
can
please
you hear
say
me?
something about how you feel about the management of the captive elephants in India, in the state, in Karnataka, vis-a-vis elsewhere in the world, especially in Southeast Asian countries.
Oh, I think the Forest Department in Karnataka has such a depth of experience with conservation issues as far as the mahouts and kavadis are concerned. So it was really great to be able to share their experiences with others that don't have nearly the background and the history of especially of how to use captive elephants for conservation activities. So that was really good, and I think that they really showed just how good the management is within the Karnataka Forest Department for the mahouts and kavadis in particular. And I think that's something that often doesn't get talked about. So it was nice to be able to bring that up to a little bit higher level so that more people are aware of what their experience is and how that can be used fairly effectively for conservation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
We wish
Sir,
your support should continue in this direction.
Sir, time is
Yeah.
getting. I just have last question to ask you, sir. Sir, after retirement, what assignments you are now presently engaged with, sir?
Manoj, presently I'm also working with the GIZ, which has taken a program of the human wildlife conflict mitigation. Working with the ministry, working with the state government, and Karnataka is also one of them. They are working with two other states, Uttarakhand and West Bengal. So Karnataka is also one of them. Here, everything what we are discussing about, we wanted to put the things in some framework, where the guidelines are concerned, some toolkits are concerned, how to address many of these conflict situations, so that we can have a harmonious coexistence with the elephants also and other biodiversity as well, other animals also. So there's one thing. Another thing, I am just working with some studies that the impact of the noise on the wildlife conservation, how it impacts actually. That is a thing like the vibrations or there's decibels, the noise which happens in an area which otherwise is taken, means a lot of faunal elements are there, whether it is arthropods or it is amphibians or it is reptiles or mammals or avifauna, how they get impacted, because many times we just are not able to understand, because ecologically these things have happened without any noise. And today when we modify the landscape with some of these interventions, it creates a lot of problems. So that's the studies I am attending. Are you able to hear me, Manoj?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, I just. Sir, it was nice, sir, interacting with you, and I think I've taken enough time from you, sir, and then a lot of things to learn from you in the future also, and then definitely the department and at a larger level, and myself at a personal level would be taking your inputs and then your valued experience in dealing with the situation in future as well, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Manoj. Thanks a lot. Actually, it was nice to recollecting a lot of these things which have happened years back, and with all the friends of elephants here. So good, actually. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manoj sir and Ajay sir, for sharing your experiences and perspectives. We have a couple of questions from our audience. I request you to kindly answer them, and we will now have our colleague Ankul to moderate this session. Ankul, I request you to please take over and read out the questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anusha. Hello, sir. Hello, Ajay, sir. Hello, Manoj Kumar, sir.
Hello. Cool.
Thank you so much for taking time and sharing your insight. And thank you, Manoj, sir, for driving the session further. It was very insightful. So, this also leaves us with a couple of questions, which probably we would be able to take it now. So, sir, you spoke about some of the problems, challenges with the department, majorly being the human-animal conflict, habitat loss, deforestation. So, this is also a question from TNC Vidya, ma'am, as to what are the biggest challenge as per you to the forest department, and what is that the department wants to do but is not doable, because of other departments or other bodies. So, what according to you, sir, is the biggest challenge?
Ankul, if we talk about the challenges, actually, I'm very happy that TNC Vidya, she is here. She has worked with the department for a very long time, and on the ecology and behavior of elephants, a great contribution she has made, and she continue to work. Thank you, Vidya, for your all these efforts. As far as this question is concerned, I would like to say that this conflict is the biggest problem actually, because in the long term, if we want to have the elephant, we need to bring the conflict under control. So that should be manageable. If it is manageable, there will not be problem, because after all said and done, though we know that we need to have means all the forest, biodiversity, everything, but with the increase in the population, change in the lifestyle, change in the land use, land cover, everything, it is impacting in some way or other. So the important thing is how to bring this harmonious coexistence in focus, and that can happen. So we should understand the drivers of all these conflict, why it is happening. Once we understand them, try to address them, and it need to be addressed only in the areas where the elephants or the biodiversity means these our hot spots are there. Once we address those issues, I believe in the long term we can human beings and the animals, biodiversity, they can live together, and perhaps this conflict will be under control. So addressing the issues of conflict is the biggest challenge, and we must work on that in whatever way. Even if we have to compensate someone who pay for the conservation, we must do it and ensure that we should have a harmonious coexistence. So this addressing the human-wildlife conflict is a very important challenge.
Right. Manoj Kumar, sir. Sorry, sir. Yes. Sorry for interrupting.
Yes.
No, I was also wondering if Manoj Kumar, sir, could add some insight to that, because he is the CCF for Chamarajanagar Circle, which is one of the biggest forest regions, and also one of the good elephant habitats. So
no, challenges are many actually, as sir was telling, actually, especially the coordination, cooperation from the other department is the one which is the biggest challenge. I always feel it, like for example, the revenue department. Some of the times, the lands which are granted, they fall right in the elephant corridors, and sometimes we need to get their support, in terms of declaring a particular area as a forest and all. So these are the certain things which we have the problem with the other one. And especially when human-elephant conflict comes, when there is a human death, we need the tremendous support of the police. So that's also a challenge, because first of all, we have to sensitize the police department and then also to seek their support. And of course, the other challenge is definitely our political bosses to sensitize. Many will appreciate also, not that they don't know, but still it's a challenge. It always remains a challenge for us. But Uncle, fortunately, what is happening is in Karnataka, to be honest with you, as sir was also mentioning several times, is one state where even today we get letters from the MLAs and MPs asking us to declare an area as a protected area, which I don't think you can find in many states. And as sir's period also, we have every year we are declaring one or the other sanctuary and national park, converting even a small areas also into four-horned antelope sanctuary, or wolf sanctuary, peacock sanctuary, and then lot of things are happening even today. Means by and large, our state has been quite fortunate in that sense. If we sit across one-to-one with the politicians also, we have been at least quite successful in convincing them. But there are some, see, we talk from the elephant point of view or the forest point of view. But when a chief minister or forest minister is talking, they see the larger picture. For
Right.
this may be small, what we are talking, maybe they see a different picture. So in the interest of, people, the state thinks, and in the interest of wildlife, we sometimes have the conflict, but still, by and large, we have been able to, cut across the ice and then do whatever best we are doing today in Karnataka. Challenges are there, always challenges are there. Initially we had a big challenge with the media itself. First is sensitizing the issues,
Right.
and another thing is, wrong reporting kind of thing. But fortunately, with this interaction with the media now, we have every year the media workshops. A lot of things have changed. The headlines used to be the killer tiger, the rogue elephant, all those things. Now you don't find in, at least
Right.
especially the state, or national media, you don't find those headings, especially in newspapers. So I think we constantly require to sensitize officers as well as the public, and as Sir was saying, that is some key. One of the Sir was saying, that is the key to conservation. Challenges are there, yet we can still, have to work on that.
Right. Thank you so much, Ajay sir and Manoj sir. I think that also answers the second question has to, what is the biggest, toughest to cooperate with? Is it government, funds, or bureaucracy? But I believe that also is answered in a way. So second question is about the tourism, the income that comes from tourism, because Ajay Mishra sir did touch base upon that. So is that enough towards conservation, or is tourism causing more damage, more harm to wildlife, or is it helping the conservation efforts? What's your
When we talk about the tourism, by and large, tourism supports a lot of livelihoods. So that is all good. For example, if we have the tourism, what we say ecotourism, around many of the protected areas, tiger reserves also, where carrying capacity has been fixed, how they have to visit, where they have to stay. The tourist, everything is there. It brings a lot of funding support to the local people, to the department, to tiger reserves, and everything happens. So generally, it is all very good. But what happens in many times, like when we spoke about the Kodagu, a lot of range areas are outside the forest. When we talk this elephant range areas are outside the forest.
Right.
They are the government land, they may be private land, even the coffee states also, from which they used to pass through. Now, many of these things have been opened for the tourism. As we know that when the disposable income of the people goes more and more, so then they want to visit more and more areas. So Bangalore, a big IT hub, lot of people, they have the high disposable income. They want to be every weekend visit many of the areas about 150 to 200 kilometers from Bangalore, where they can reach in 3-4 hours and they can come back about 1 hour after 2 or 3 days, like that. So the areas which are not organized, especially which are outside, private or like that, there we have to be a very, very strong regulatory measures. Because as you know, these areas where we have few tourists visiting, nothing happened. When the numbers started increasing, one fine morning we found the disturbance is so much, elephant started straying out of the habitat, though it is a private land, though it may be a non-forest government land, but that was a part of the habitat. So that conflict has become visible. So these problems happen. It is just like putting sugar in the water. Up to certain stage, it will keep on dissolve. And when you put more sugar, it will start. It will become visible. So like that, the space which is available, it is not the space where we should fill up with the tourism. We should know that how much particular area can have, so that carrying capacity has to be worked out, whether private or government or anywhere. And we should maintain the optimum level so that livelihood issues are also addressed. At the same time, it should not have an adverse effect on the conservation. So likewise, it has to be very balanced, what I will say.
right? I agree, sir, completely. So then there's a question on capturing of elephants. Basically, it's about capturing the problematic elephants, and the question says that it's been increasing of late. So what is the solution? I mean, do you think this can be avoided? because once captured, these elephants are taken to camps and they are never introduced to wild again. So, how can we effectively handle this scenario is a question, sir.
When we talk about the capturing is done for many reasons. As you said, sometimes the elephant gets injured. So for the treatment also, we do it and it is really released back. Another thing is in the conflict. In the conflict also, sometimes elephant stays out long, within the habitation area, they are captured, taken back and released there also. See, when the problematic elephants which you are referring about, see, like in any other living being, 99% living beings have a common nature. So that nature means they survive with that. There are very few individuals which may have a nature very aggressive or something like different which can cause harm to others. These elephants are very, very few. See, out of 6,000, if you take 1% is about 60 elephants. I don't think more than 2 or 3% of elephants which may have some problem somewhere. Maybe so for some reason it has happened because their habitat has been fragmented or they have been chased, stones have been pelted, shouted, disturbed, something might have happened. But elephant what we say problem are very, very few. So first we should know that all elephants are not problematic. Most of them are, they don't want to get into conflict with the human beings. There are very few.
Right.
Then the thing is how to address this problem. One of the thing is that once the elephant has been identified, his behavior has been studied, and we think that it is having a problematic behavior. So that elephant, if it is left there, can cause more harm. And because of the one elephant, people will developing a negative perception about all the elephants. So in that case, they are removed. After removal also, the department does not bring all elephant to captivity. Elephants, many of the elephants, they are captured and they have been translocated to a habitat which is good, and from where they should not be able to get back actually. So that is one thing. Only in some rare cases, once in a while department has to bring the elephant to captivity. So there also department make use of them and they join the department's force. As we know, these captive elephants are the part of department. They have a service register, they have a name. They also work with department for a certain time. Like other officials, they also get retired after some time. They are given the food, ration, everything is open to them. So they are a part of, they are an employee of department. So they are looked after well in Karnataka and they contribute to the conservation in a different capacity. Means just to address the issues of human wildlife conflict or so many other issues also. So likewise, it is a thing we have to take a holistic view of the entire thing of this capturing.
Right. Thank you so much for that, sir. Okay, the next question is to Manoj Kumar, sir. Sir, any thoughts on the need of modernization of forest forces, like how it is done in military or army, and how critical it is? And what's your view on staff shortages and lack of infrastructure for the frontline staff?
Uncle, just repeat the first part of the question.
Is there a need to modernize the forest force, and do we need to regularize the forest force like how we do it in military, like in army?
Yeah, it's a nice question actually concerning the most important part of the department actually. When I joined this service, say 22 years back, my average age of my frontline staff, the guard watcher, was 50, 55. Now, when I am the chief conservator of forest, thanks to all the efforts of our officers like Ajay Mishra sir, today the average age of my guards and foresters is 23. So that's the change. And to tell you honestly, in Chamranagar Circle, almost all my frontline staff posts are filled now. Now I have got extra people like intelligence for strike force who are sitting in my office helping me in IT, management of IT, of the rank of range officer, deputy RFO. So we have created more in the sense maybe the first in the country, the Karnataka has created 3,600 frontline staff posts. Now we are recruiting that much of large number. Maybe police much happened, but never in the forest department. Now you were talking about the modernization. Now initially we had the recruitment in the qualification for recruitment, like guards was the 10th standard. And the deputy RFOs was the 12th standard. Now we are getting graduates. Now there is now every staff of our department are capable of handling the most of the IT applications. Today we are dispersing every man-animal conflict, the compensation like prop compensation online, means through their mobile app only.
Right.
So things are getting modernized through IT interventions and other things, but not enough. We have a long way to go, but there is a thinking in the department, like, in terms of weapons, also in terms of training, also a lot of inputs. That training syllabus need to be again worked with the present scenarios. Not the, we have stopped a lot of works in the past. What we're doing in the past, now we are not doing. So from the point of view of, like, now the range officers are not more like, just managing some forest. They are to provide a tremendous leadership, how to handle the mobs, how to handle the investigation part, intelligence part. So roles are changing over, rapidly. And now there is a cyber crime. Now our people are sitting in the office and then looking at the websites and then who is selling what kind of animals.
Right.
Things are definitely changing. There is a need for modernization. And fortunately, Karnataka Department, Forest Department has its own IT wing. And we have been day in and day out coming out with the new applications and then the things. So, and even training curriculum, we are working on revising the training curriculums. Recently, we had revised again, maybe over a period of time, we will be revising. As far as the caliber and competence of the front-end staff is concerned, we are far better today than what it was, say, 2 decades or 3 decades ago. And coming to the infrastructure, like their, like the residences and all, we still lag behind a lot. And then like their incentives, giving them, like, we do give them extra allowance like 3,500 rupees per month for having worked in the difficult areas, but that's not enough. Their pay scales are also not on par with the other departments like agriculture, horticulture, or for that matter, police. The pay scales are also far below the other department. The department has recommended their case. The government is yet to consider their scale improvement. And then, as I said, we have started recruiting almost 500 people every year. Incommensurate with their recruitment, we don't have the residential accommodations. So those infrastructure facilities we need to create. And then recently we had one meeting with the forest minister, and then we have brought it to his knowledge that we need to now improve the infrastructure in terms of residential things and all those things. Hopefully the government might consider those requests as well.
So how about equipping, what do you think, are the staff equipped enough to face human animal conflicts? May it be facing the people or facing the wildlife itself. Do you think the department is enough equipped with these kind of skills and infrastructure?
Infrastructure wise, as I said, like many times we talk about weapons. So we still do not have the that kind of weapons, number wise also, and also in terms of the things like modern weapons we call. Correct. That kind of, our range officers also do not have the weapons and all. Only the frontline staff like deputy RFOs and all have the like DBBL or slide action guns and all. And many of them are sometimes not working condition kind of thing. That situation is still there, but what is happening is the number of weapons we require and number of weapons being supplied, there is a little gap now. That also being addressed, but there is, as on date, there is a gap in that. Coming to addressing the human-animal conflict thing, to be honest with you, my frontline staff, when I was in Mysore as a DCF and then dealing with this elephant conflict and tiger and leopard conflict every day almost, when I got the health checkup done for the frontline staff, 60% had angioplasty thing. We are capable of dealing. Our frontline staff have a tremendous courage and then competence to deal with the crisis if we are allowed to do ourselves. Right. It is what happens because of the scroll, what appears in the TV, that leopard is seen here, tiger is seen here, leopard is seen here. People come in large number, like taking autos as if they have come for a picnic. And that's where our entire skill-wise, competence-wise, we have no problem at all. We can deal with any of the crises, especially when we're rescuing the animals and other things. We can do it. We have the capacity and competence. We can capture the elephant. Today, if you see the capture, also, though there is a, like whether to capture or not is a different issue, but almost all 99% success rate is there in our capture of the elephants, which, usually we say 50% chances that elephants can, when we capture, there is a death. Chances of death of an elephant can 50, but in Karnataka, the confidence level is so high that 99% we are successful. There is no incident where elephant has died while capturing. So many times the tigers issues come, like, tiger died, but the issues may be beyond, anybody's control kind of thing, but we are competent. Our confidence is very high. The main problem is the public, who many times doesn't allow us to do our job properly. So
Right.
that's the problem. Otherwise, rescuing of animals is concerned, our staff are quite competent. But mob handling, we are not. That is also not the mandate of the forest department. When it comes to mob, it is the mandate of the police department. They have to make the way for us so that we can execute. But even they also sometimes become helpless when the thousands of people, they gather in a small area, and then our conservation, their rescue efforts become, difficult.
Right. Right. So it seems like Vidya ma'am also agrees that the infrastructure and the force has been tremendously, improving over the last 2 decades. But she has a question. So she was wondering if more tribal people can be involved, in the forest craftsmanship, without having the graduation, without having the qualification, of a BSc degree, with a minimal qualification, but being a local tribal people, can they be introduced to forest force more and more? And would this be better for the whole effort of conservation?
Certainly it is helpful, and then Karnataka has reserved seats for them now, the local traditional forest tribes. And recently, I have recruited 21 of them, tribals, only for tribals. That entire recruitment process for tribals. Again, now we are going one more drive for recruiting the tribals for the frontline staff.
And this is for permanent positions, sir, because
permanent positions we are recruiting. There is a reservation now for the tribals, exclusive for tribals, and we're taking up as a drive also. And this is a direct recruitment.
Okay. Right. That's good to know, sir. Good to hear. That also kind of gives the good feeling among the villagers, for the departments. Because every time we walked along the boundaries of the forest, it was always the mindset that your forest, our village.
Yeah.
People are like, nim pranigal baratte. That was the attitude, right? So in order to mitigate that, I think it's very important. Thank you so much, sir. I think there's one more question. Maybe Ajay Mishra sir can answer this. So this is about the Sharavati hydroelectric power project, sir. So it submerged almost 350 square kilometers of floodplains, prime area for annual congregation of the Mysore elephant population. So what's your view on that?
This matter is actually in the court. So I believe it is already sub judice. Me commenting on this is not very right. But as far as that habitat is concerned, when we spoke about the Sharavati, usually long back in the 19th century, there was elephant movement from Mysore elephant reserve areas to the Dandeli elephant reserve areas. And these areas all around, when these elephants are moving from Mysore district to Kodagu to Hassan, then Kudremukha, Shimoga, North Canara, it was happening at that time. But gradually disturbances and other things have brought the fragmentation. And then that things are not happening now. That is why many times we see, actually earlier from the in the beginning, I used to be surprised that many places in the Shimoga district or in the North Canara district where the elephants are not there, even in the South Canara also, these places have been named after elephants. So how it has come? Then we tried to correlate the things from the history. Then we found that these areas were full of elephants. So Sharavati is also one of the very important place where it was a part of the elephant habitat at some point of time, at least for the movement and for migration. Then that area also has got covered in one of the LTM, lion-tailed macaque wildlife sanctuary also. So sensitive area it is. There are some project. So with this matter went to court and it is sub judice. Let us see the court how they will take a view on the entire matter.
Right, sir. Thank you so much. Sir, about I was recently looking at one video from Assam where, to avoid elephants entering the crop, entering the farmland, they had dedicatedly grew some wild crops along the boundaries so that the elephant do not, elephant can feed on the wild crops and do not enter the farm area. Do you think it's a good idea? Because that's one of the biggest challenge.
Yeah, Ankul, if you see the conservation biology, every species has evolved in a certain way. So as far as possible, we should never try to change or meddle with the natural food habits or instincts what they have. Because if you introduce anything and tomorrow if that is not available on the fringe of forest, animal will go many more kilometers to in search of that. So, and these animals have evolved millions of years without all these things what we are
Right, sir.
talking about. So in general, we should never meddle with the food habits of any of the animals. As far as the mitigation measures are concerned, what you said, many of them have been taken actually at the community level, especially. Sometimes these chili ropes are there. Sometimes they burn the dung with some chilies there, so that pungent smoke will deter them to come out. Likewise, beehive fences also are being made. Chili, the small chili they grow actually, it is very pungent. So that also helps in some way. So doing all that is fine, but we should never grow anything which can change the habit of the animal,
Right.
not only for elephants, for any other. This is my
Right.
view, because many times the people say they are coming for sugarcane outside. Why not you grow sugarcane inside the forest? So perhaps we think about in that way, but we must keep in our mind none of these animals have evolved with sugarcane or any of these things. So let them keep them away. Today, if you make them habituated to the sugarcane inside the forest, they will go several kilometers in search of sugarcane outside the forest. So this is the thing actually.
Right, sir. Right. So what you're saying is don't alter their food habits, rather avoid them from coming using
Yes.
other techniques.
Yes, that is scientifically we should take a view on that.
Right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I think we are also nearing our end of session and also questionnaire. But before we leave you, sir, from both of you, I have met Manoj Kumar sir in the past, during my work with Verma sir. So I want both of you to have share some inspiration stories from you, a short inspiration story, so that many more people are motivated to join the force. So
welcome. It is good we want. Well-meaning people should be in the right place.
Thank you, sir. Manoj Kumar sir, you want to add something?
Uncle, we can have a separate on that.
I know you have a very, very inspiring story of your own.
Yeah. Because what happens now when you are doing a public service, there are a lot of setbacks as well as a lot of inspirational things happen. We have seen many times, people scold us, abuse us, and then at the same time, when they realize our sincerity and then hard work, they invite us and then give us food and tea also. We have seen both. When sir is always been a field man, so he was always to feel, and then people hurl abuses on us. But seeing our commitment level and then our sincerity, they have never allowed us to leave their village without having food with them or having tea with them. So it's quite an inspiring service itself is an inspiring. Nature is so beautiful, so it's always inspires us. So those stories might take a lot of time if I can share. But whoever is willing to join the service or the department is a fantastic department. All said and done, with all the difficulties, whatever are there in the field, hurdles, but still it's one of the best department to serve the society at large, actually.
Thank you so much, sir. Over to you, Anusha.
Thanks, Uncle. With this, we've come to the end of our program. I would like to once again thank our distinguished guests, Ajay Kumar sir and Manoj Kumar sir. Thank you for sharing all of your views and experiences. As it is always said, this is indeed still a wicked problem with no one solution that fits everything. So hopefully, all of us are inspired, our volunteers, all of our audience from Friends of Elephant today. We hope that we get to hear more about all of these aspects, so that individually from our own efforts, we also as civilians try to contribute towards issues of conservation. Thank you once again for joining us this evening. Thank you for your time. Thanks to all the participants. I hope everyone has enjoyed this session.
Thank you, Anusha. Thank you, Uncle, and also thank you, Rohit Bhashi, who has designed the good poster design also, and everyone who has attended this program. And thank you, Manoj, very much. We
Sir,
had a
thank you.
very good session, very lively session, and a lot of old things we have recollected. So thanks to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.